Starter replacement. Check these 7 things first. Before you replace the starter, stop for a second, because a no crank problem does not always mean the starter is bad. Yes, sometimes the starter really is the problem, but other times the real cause is a weak battery, a bad cable, a failed relay, a neutral safety switch issue, a bad start signal, or even an engine that does not want to turn. And if you replace the starter first without checking those things, you can spend good money and still end up with the same no start problem. In this video, I will show you 7 things to check first before replacing a starter. So before you buy parts and guess, let's go step by step. Check number 1. The battery may still be the real problem. This is the first thing you should rule out, because a weak battery can make the starter look guilty very quickly. You may hear clicking, you may get slow cranking, or you may get one weak attempt and then nothing. And at that point, many people blame the starter. But if the battery does not have enough strength, the starter never gets the power it needs to do its job. So before replacing the starter, make sure the battery is actually charged and capable of delivering current, because a weak battery can create starter-like symptoms very easily. Check number 2. The terminals, battery cables, or ground connection may be the real issue. Even if the battery itself is fine, power still has to travel properly. If the terminals are corroded, the cable is loose, or the ground connection is weak, the starter may not get the current it needs. That can cause clicking, slow cranking, intermittent no crank, or complete silence when turning the key. And from the driver's seat, it can feel exactly like a failed starter. But the starter may not be the problem at all. The problem may be that power cannot reach it properly. So before replacing the starter, check the battery connections, the positive cable, and the ground path carefully. Check number 3. The starter relay or fuse may have failed. Sometimes the starter motor is fine, but the command to activate it never gets there. A bad starter relay or blown fuse can stop the circuit from working correctly. And when that happens, you may turn the key and get a click, intermittent no start, or no response at all. That is why a bad relay can trick people into replacing the starter first, because the result feels the same. The engine does not crank, but the reason underneath is completely different. So before replacing the starter, make sure the relay and fuse are not the actual reason the starter is not engaging. Check number 4. The park neutral safety switch or clutch switch may be blocking the start. Here is another thing many people overlook. On automatic cars, the vehicle usually must know it is in park or neutral before it will allow the starter to engage. On manual cars, the clutch switch often has to see the pedal pressed correctly. If that switch fails or the signal is inconsistent, the car may act like the starter is dead. You turn the key, nothing happens. Maybe later it starts. Maybe it only starts after shifting again or moving the shifter slightly. That kind of pattern matters, because that is not always a bad starter pattern. Sometimes the car simply is not allowing the starter circuit to activate. So before replacing the starter, make sure the car is actually sending permission to start. Check number 5. The ignition switch or start signal circuit may be the real problem. The starter does not just decide to turn on by itself. It needs a signal. And if the ignition switch, push-button start system, or trigger wire to the starter has a problem, the starter may never receive the command to engage. That can create a very frustrating situation. The battery is good, the lights work, the dash comes on, but when you try to start the car, nothing happens. At that point, many people assume the starter has failed internally. But if the start signal never reaches the solenoid, the starter never even gets a chance. So before replacing it, make sure the problem is not in the start command itself. Check number 6. The engine may be hard to turn, or something may be locked up. This is one of the more serious checks, but it matters. If the engine is seized, or if an accessory like the alternator or another pulley-driven part is locked up badly enough, the starter may not be able to turn the engine. And when that happens, it can look like the starter is weak or completely dead. You may get a heavy click, a harsh struggle to crank, or no real engine movement at all. The mistake here is replacing the starter when the engine itself has too much resistance to turn, because a new starter will not fix a locked engine or seized accessory. So before replacing the starter, you need to consider whether the engine can actually rotate freely. Check number 7. The flywheel or flexplate teeth may be damaged. And finally, one more thing people often miss. Sometimes the starter motor is not the real failure. The problem is what it is trying to engage. The starter gear has to mesh correctly with the flywheel or flex plate teeth. If those teeth are worn, damaged, or missing in certain spots, the starter may spin badly, grind, or fail to engage properly. That can create grinding noise, intermittent no crank, or a starter that seems weak or inconsistent. And once again, the starter gets blamed first. But if the flywheel teeth are damaged, the real problem is not fully inside the starter itself. So before replacing it, think about whether the engagement problem could be mechanical, not just electrical. Now here is the big takeaway. A bad starter can absolutely happen, yes, but a no crank or hard crank problem does not always begin with the starter motor itself. That is why starter replacement should not be based on one click, one slow crank, or one no start event alone. So before replacing a starter, ask yourself, is the battery really strong? Are the terminals, cables, and grounds good? Is the relay or fuse working? Is the neutral safety switch or clutch switch allowing startup? Is the ignition switch or start signal circuit working correctly? Can the engine actually turn freely? And are the flywheel teeth still in good shape? Those questions matter because the smarter move is always to confirm the cause before replacing the part. So let's quickly recap. Before replacing a starter, check for a weak battery, bad terminals, cables, or grounds, a failed starter relay or fuse, a park neutral safety switch or clutch switch problem, an ignition switch or start signal issue, an engine or accessory that is hard to turn, and damaged flywheel or flex plate teeth. Sometimes the starter really is bad. Yes, but do not assume it first. Because if the real problem is somewhere else, a new starter will not fix what the car is actually trying to tell you. And now I want to hear from you. Did you ever think the starter was bad, but later find out the real problem was something else? Was it the battery, the cables, the relay, the neutral safety switch, or damaged flywheel teeth? Comment below with what caused it on your car. And if enough people mention the same issue, I will make the next video on how to tell if a starter is actually bad before replacing it.